What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And as always, it is the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. And I am the 2018 Innovation Award winner by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I was honored that a few weeks ago. Very happy to have you here tonight. And as I was saying to this gentleman a little bit beforehand, we haven't been on live together in a minute. And it's good to have him back. And welcome, Kinte Ferguson. What is up, Kinte?
Man, I'm doing good, man. It's been a great weekend. I've been doing good. Great day. And I'm so glad to be here with you.
Excellent. Kinte was on the Get Vocal platform a few days ago, and I jumped in, hadn't seen him for a while, and within about 10 minutes, we came up with this conversation topic. And so I said, fantastic. And he said, yeah, let's do it. I'm going to let Kinte give the background why he wanted to bring this up. And what we're going to do is let some people in, because I know Paul wants to join in on the platform, the Get Vocal program platform, but I want to give a little background first. So Paul, just hold on a minute. We'll get to you. So Kinte, give some background on this.
Yeah. I've been doing my program, Men and Women Talk to Mars Venus show for a long time. And one of the reasons was I started noticing, for years, I noticed this disconnect between men and women, and down to the point of all out war, right? And I noticed that there weren't a lot of spaces for men and women to have like a really good conversation with each other, right? And one thing I noticed from talking to friends and family and, and just people I come across is this feeling of marriage as not being something that a lot of people aspired to, is not as much as like back in the day. And I thought, you know what, man, that's really interesting. Talking to like a lot of young cats, when I was young, I didn't want to get married then, but I always thought of it as something down the line that I would want to do. But the idea of people, I never had a feeling of I never wanted to. I just didn't want to at that point when I was young. So I posted on my Facebook a question, should men get married? And I see Ryan in the chat. What's up, Ryan? I posted this question, should men even get married in 2019? Because there's a lot of talk about the whole war against women and with women, and should men, do we even get any benefits anymore? When it comes to getting married. And there's a lot of different points that you'll hear guys make. And I agree with a lot of them to a certain point. One is I think there was a time where we were almost bred to be husbands and wives, right? Grandma was in the house, right? So grandma would, impart her wisdom on the young ladies in the house, right? And then you had dads, who my father was present in my house. So, there were certain things that we were taught, like, a man's supposed to do, and you get your family and you do these things. And it seems like those things are a thing of the past. And I wanted to pose that question just to get to see what people were going to say. And it was, we still had some people who felt like marriage was an important part of the a thing that we should do as people. But a lot of the answers were very detached. It was, it was never like, it was very few like, oh man, you love somebody, you marry them. The conversation was more like, well, you can transfer your property, like really business type stuff. And I thought, those things are very important and things you should think about. But I thought that was very, very interesting, some of the responses. So I felt like, man, this would be a good topic to have, should men specifically, because I'm a man, you're a man, and a lot of men now feel like marriage is more benefits the woman than it does the man. And I wanted to investigate some of these things in a dialogue and see what people think.
Well, this is great. And I'm just going to do a little catch up because there's a number of people that are watching this on different platforms. So JNF Enterprises on Periscope, he's making a comment saying family values have been pushed aside in 2018. Do here on the Get Vocal platform. I'm going to open up the room. I just want to say also hello to Ryan. Hello to Durham Skyrider. Thank you. Hello, Ken Dixon, life trainer. I'm going to open up the room right now. So if anyone wants to come on in. Actually, comment here by JNF Enterprises on Periscope saying marriage has always benefited women. I'd like him to expand on that comment. That's a very interesting comment. And we have Paul coming on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? Can't hear you. And Ryan is on now. So the let it begin. So, Ryan's trying to get in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. I was just looking at an article online, and it's in the last 2 or 3 years saying that only 40% of men 20 to 39 in America are married.
Check.
So that tells, yep, I hear you. I hear Paul. I can't hear you, but I see you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for jumping in. What do you have to say about this topic?
I'm going to listen for a while, and then I'll have a comment. I want to let you guys get into it deeper, and then I'll jump in when I find out more about what you guys are talking about. How's that sound?
Oh, that's more than fair. And we have someone else, Ken Dixon. Ken Dixon on Get Vocal saying an old American proverb says a house does not rest upon the ground but upon a woman. Okay.
All right. Well, okay. So I'm gonna say some of the things that people say why it benefits the woman, right? Or at least that's what some people say during my research or whatnot. There's a lot of like when it comes to the divorce and alimony type situation, child support alimony, like that's not even debatable. Women win that one hands down, right? So I know too many guys who've gone through divorces or divorces, whether there is children involved or not, and they're getting crucified with it, right? You have the child support situation, and it's interesting. I have my cousin. She is a woman. She has this thing about I'm meeting with her on Sunday, and I'm going to interview her. But this thing about child support, fixing the child support system that is heavily weighted against a lot of men, so that's one thing also. And then there was I think a lot of guys feel like what's the whole thing? You can get the cow, you can get the milk and you don't have to buy the cow. So like nowadays, women are out there just like men. So, you can get the milk. You don't have to buy the cow. So I think a lot of guys feel like that there's not a big reason to get married, because if you can get everything you want, don't have to be married. Why not? Right. So I think a lot of people feel like the reason to get married is if you want legacy reasons, right? Like I want to have kids and I want them to have a nuclear situation and that sort of thing. That's usually the thing that people think about. Men these days think about, if I do want to get married, it's because of a legacy reason.
I just want to add to the conversation I'm hosting. I'll put in my comments every once in a while. It's more about you gentlemen and ladies who come in regards to participation on this. I think that right now, with the way things are, men are afraid to get into relationships, a lot of them. The costs are real, and rightly or wrongly, the Me Too movement has changed things forever and ever in regards to relationships. And I think some of it's good. I think a lot of it's good, but there's some of it that's questionable. People will get accused for things, and even if they turn out to be false, their careers, their image, their self-image is damaged forever. And having a relationship with yourself is challenging. With someone else, it's even become more challenging. Okay, Brian is trying to jump in. I'm just going to answer here to JNF Enterprises. You cannot jump in through Periscope. You'll have to go to the Get Vocal platform. And if you want, I can send you the link. So send me the message on Periscope if you want that link. Jump in. Ryan, you are here. What is up, Ryan?
Hey, how's it going, Dr. Vibes? Nice to be back on your show.
Well, you know the door is always open, and I don't do shows. I do conversations.
Oh, that's
brother.
right.
You know that.
I always love how Ryan adds that S to Dr. Vibe. Dr.
So it's all good.
I think from my perspective, I think
thoughts on this one.
I think that
what do you want?
I think that it all depends
Paul.
on who you choose for a mate in your relationship, and they can be permissive or they can be restrictive. It's up to you as to what kind of mate you choose. If you have a permissive mate, a woman who allows you to be free and do what you want to do, then that's a different scenario than what you guys are describing, where you're describing a more restrictive situation. Am I correct?
Now, I want to I want to clarify. I'm not making these points
Kinte?
because this is my belief system. I'm just saying that's what those who oppose are saying. But I think those who oppose would. I guess I'm gonna be the devil's advocate tonight. Those opposed would say it doesn't matter that they're all essentially the same in one form or another, which is, you can do what you will with that one. So, everything's good until it's bad, right?
Yeah, everything's good till it's bad.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, Rico?
Ryan? Oh. Well, and I think it's Hey, Rico, thanks for stopping in. If you want to come in, just give me a holler via the comment section. With a lot of guys, I think it's challenging because most guys are used to the individual lifestyle and having their own way, so to speak. So to invite someone in, that's enough of a challenge. And again, with the current environment, and I think another factor has to look into it, how many guys' parents lived a full marriage life, or how many guys' parents have been divorced. That can have an influence too, because most people, there you go. That can have a big factor too, because most people learn things through duplication. So if you see people, like I'm married, and it's interesting, a few years ago, my wife said something prophetic saying, how many of our friends are married? and when we thought about it, there were more people that were either single,
it's not even
married,
just that
divorced,
they're not married. It's that they're not married
associated
and
with
have no desire to be that as well, which is even bigger. Like, it's one thing to be like, I'm not married yet, I ain't found the right person, but it's like, I ain't even going down that path. I'm going to stay away from that 100%. And I meet a lot of people like that, and it's the numbers are growing, especially with men, because a lot of men are asking themselves, what are my benefits? What is the benefit of getting married? Now, obviously, if you meet a special person and you fall in love, you may say there's the benefit there. But I think a lot of us are cynical when it comes to love anyway. It's like, yeah, you love me now till you don't love me.
But okay, and it's wonderful here because respectfully, Paul is a little bit older than probably all of us here, and I'd be interested in not only when you were younger, what do you think about marriage compared to where you are now, and what do you look when you see the whole state of marriage from where you sit?
I had a lot of very beautiful women and a lot of incredible relationships. Every relationship I had up until my marriage lasted 7 years without fail. It was 7 years, 7 years, 7 years, and 7 years. And now I've had one that's 18 years. And so I think in the end, you have to settle down. You know, you can have an adventuresome life, but ultimately I think it benefits you, and it's benefiting me to have a good mate in my I'm 74 years old. I turned 74 on December 2nd. You know, I'm probably older than all three of you combined.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Happy belated.
Rico said something
No.
really interesting.
Happy belated, by the way. Yeah, Rico. Well, I'm going to just keep with the conversations. Ken Dixon, live trainer, he's jumped off now. He said that he would not be here today if not for his wife. We are partners in our success and support each other and everything. And that is outstanding. That is more becoming the rarity than the norm these days. And I want to say hi to Tony, hi to Rico. Rico says here, I think the reason a lot of people aren't interested in marriage is because they focus on what they are losing instead of what they are gaining.
Ryan,
Ryan,
give me
you're
a
staying
fist pump.
too quiet. You're just nodding your head and you're
Ryan.
keeping
Come
on mute. I'll kick you off if you don't say anything. You know that. I'm just going to catch up on the Periscope side. U4Sight says, I think now more than ever, people are looking for a free relationship. I know that they're all in raised risk relationships and just like a business, you have to treat, it's treated like a business. All customers are the same in a relationship. The second hand deserves as much as the first. So what U4Sight is saying is that marriage is a business. Yeah. It's not a relationship.
You're on mute.
It's more a business than a relationship.
Ryan, you're muted. You're muted, Ryan. Unmute. Unmute, Ryan.
Yeah, you've been on mute for the last few minutes, man.
Unmute, Ryan.
You're muted, man. You're muted.
He's probably looking for the mute.
Okay, well, so let me ask. Oh, he's come off. Okay, so
can you hear me?
There's a spot free if someone wants to take it. No problem.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
So
yeah, I think it's getting vocal. All my settings are good.
Ryan.
But yeah, I was talking to my girlfriend because she wants to get married, and we were actually discussing whether we should get married or not, because when it comes to commitment is commitment. When someone makes a commitment with you, we just recently split up just for about a month, just to kind of see, because we were living with each other for about a year, and we kind of split just to kind of see where things were going. And we talked every day from our split, and there was the one issue that was coming up was commitment, and commitment in saying, hey, we're going to work out, commitment in, just other things with our finances and whatnot, and people breaking their commitment just within those small agreements or promises. And I think that, she was on the phone and she was like, Ryan, I feel like I'm losing you. I feel like I'm losing you. And I said, no, you haven't lost me. I'm here. We just need to come into an agreement on how we want to live our life. You're connected to me. No matter how long we have a puppy together, I mean, you're connected. We'll always be connected. But we just have to get our frequencies aligned in the same vein so that we can move forward with our life. Because it's the lack of commitment that causes a lot of strife in relationships. So, a marriage, in my humble opinion, is just a certificate. And I don't want to get divorced knowing that a person that I've been in love with can't commit to me on just day-to-day things. Because how would they be if we have to divorce? So I began this relationship with the end in mind, thinking, well, how would we want to split? And when we split up, we did it so amicably and so peacefully that this is why we are back together, is because we really established, how we were going to handle ourselves, even if something were to happen. Because these are conversations that a lot of people in relationships don't even want to have. being in a relationship,
Exactly.
an entrepreneur and a single dad
Very,
that has
very
been
true.
in a
Very
relationship
true.
where I've lost everything and all this other stuff, I am very protective. And I had a client that was telling me the other day about setting up a living trust. It's like, you know, instead of it being set up through, you know, just having a marriage for the sake of, but actually putting your assets together in a living trust and deciding who gets what from the beginning, as opposed to having a judge decide who gets what at the end. I mean, these were conversations that he was having with me, and that's how people within his circle, you know, they have those sort of conversations. They don't get married by, you know, the traditional standards. They get married in different ways. So, you know, I'm open to that. And I think that, you know, I think that people need to focus more on committing to each other and creating a home and an environment where you have a team and atmosphere. Because how many of us get into relationships and you don't feel like you're part of a team? You know, like a good marriage is a team. It is a business, but it's, you know, I think once you have a commitment on where you want to go in life, it's really hard for me to see why you need a certificate to, you know, to further stamp it, unless there are some other financial benefits to being a part of that relationship.
Okay, so Ryan, I appreciate your being so transparent. I'm going to drill down with you, if you allow me, for a few moments more here. I just want to catch up here. Stephen is saying we've created a transit value system. Nobody is willing to commit. At the moment, anything looks like work, we swipe right. And he says it's now these days it's I'll love you forever for now. Ryan, it's interesting. And before we went on live, I was telling to Kinte and myself, I was at a very, very good friend's birthday party on Saturday night. And around 1 o'clock in the morning, there was just myself, him, and two other gentlemen, 4 gentlemen. Myself and my friend whose birthday party it was are married. The 2 other gentlemen, one of them was married, divorced, 2 grown children. The other gentleman been in 2 different relationships, had 2 different children, and he came right out and saying,
prenuptial.
How come you married guys don't have any prenuptial agreement? And we just said we just don't feel that we need
That's
one.
what
And
Ryan's
he looked at us
talking
like
about. He's
he looked like
talking
we were
about
on
a
crack.
form of prenuptial by setting up the living trust, which is probably from an economic point of view a very good idea. You get all kinds of tax benefits and that from having that, and that would kind of lock things into where you know the outcome ahead of time. I think, Ryan, you're thinking beyond your years now.
Well, I mean, I guess that came with just the goals that I had with myself in terms of what I wanted to do as a business owner and having multiple businesses. And I've already been in a situation where I came home once. My baby mama left as she came in with her brother and took dishes, took all kinds of things. And I was laying on a mattress with my, you know, and I would come and get my son on the weekends. And I would be holding my son with no heat on in the house. And this is like in this is in October, November, which is winter in Calgary, in Canada, which is pretty cold. So like, I know what it was like, and it was devastating, devastating because as a man, no one really came to my aid. Everyone told me to toughen it up. And no one really cared. Everyone was like, girl, take him to court. So what she did, we actually went to mediation, and we actually got back together. And during that time, this was over 5 years ago, but we got back together because of mediation. But before she left, I got her to sign a document, and I said, hey, I want 50% custody of my son. Right off the bat, I want 50%. And it ended up me taking more than that because of her work schedule. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be in a relationship with you regardless. Like, I'm still married to you. In my head, we're still married. So we co-parent based on that premise alone, because we really created a bond for our son, for the sake of our son. And we have the best relationship we ever possibly can. And my son is such a great kid. But it was because of me having those hard conversations about where do the assets go, what do we do with child support, what do we do with all of these different things. And I think that when I was talking with my current girlfriend is that I said, you know, relationship planning is financial planning. We ought to sit down and have those conversations. Sorry.
Well, but even before that, Ryan, and I'm just going to politely interrupt you. I'm going to get to Tony's comment here saying, I would love to get married, but I've seen too many marriages not go well in my life. That includes my mother, my brother, and many great friends. It is one of the many reasons why I'm very selective of who I put in my life. I see too many people who don't take relationships seriously. That includes friendships and marriages. People don't even take acquaintanceships seriously. Kinte is saying only women, children, and dogs get love unconditionally, but men are only loved under the condition that they can provide for something.
Because I'm always, I'm changing it just a little bit, but I think that is one of the group. I don't know if you've seen that special, but that's one of the best things in it. And I think that kind of mindset, or that reality, is why a lot of guys are like, I don't want to get married, because they feel like that, you know, that like, yeah, you love me because, you know, I got a nice job right now. You know, it's like, will you struggle with me though? That's what I want to know. Like, what, you know, if I have to cut off Netflix and you know, and we have to decide between the water or the or gas, will you still love me then? You know, so, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to get some comments here. You for sight on Periscope saying the pros and cons of a prenup trolls. You get the unpleasant out of the way. The con may not be when you're done. It takes all of the spontaneity and risk out of when you want to do it up front. Remember, you can't legislate custody. You cannot legislate the love. Grown folks act like you're grown. Hope that makes sense. I want to ask all the men here that are on the call here on the live stream, did either your father or mother or a caregiver,
my parents were very
or an elder ever talk to you about marriage?
Talking about sex, marriage, or anything like that. And they got divorced when I was 11, so I pretty much had to be self-taught, you know. Wow. Oh, and by the way, if anybody in the chat wants to get in here, I'll be happy to jump out. Just type in the chat, hey, let me in or something, and I'll jump out.
Same here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you very much for that, Paul.
Definitely,
Kinte,
my father.
You had a reaction to that
very
conversation
he
piece I just laid down there.
Women are queens of the earth, and that, you know, he had a very old school belief system. And my father was much, much older, and I had to tell him, these women now ain't like the women in the 50s. You know, like we live in a different era, Dad. But his mentality was like, hey, you marry the woman that you're with, and you know, like that's one reason why I hesitated to bring women home, because if I just, I barely, you know how you young, you date a lot of women and stuff. And their thing was like, oh, okay, so where's this going and all that. I'm like, ain't going nowhere, but upstairs. so right. So
if you brought a lady home, they were saying this must be serious.
More so my father than my mother. Of that whole thing about marriage and stuff like that. And they're big on, like, if you got someone pregnant, which I never did, but if you got someone pregnant, you married. That was one of the biggest things is, they didn't believe in, being a deadbeat dad or if that was something that was really big, in the family.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, Ryan, what was your experience growing up? Did anyone ever give you any
Not
education
even
or
the
any thought
slightest.
process of
My
getting
grandma and my
married,
grandpa are
of
still
what it'd be like?
together. I think
And
over 40 years or whatever of them.
Wow.
I don't even know the numbers, but they've been together, but they're miserable together. They so almost like they hate each other. My mom.
but they're still married. Are they at
I'm
the
trying to
point
break
that
them
you look at
apart.
them and
I'm like,
say,
hey, grandma,
how are they still together and they're so hard on each other?
You guys fight too much when we come over. But they did it because they come from old school Trinidad and they have a different philosophy about raising a family. And my mom and my dad they were pretty young. They were my age when I had Malcolm. They were my mom was 26 when she had me. So I seen her go through 2 marriages, and she dated a lot, but my mom was always independent and she always charted her own way. My dad also, and he's not my biological father, he's always charted his own way, he's always made his own rules and encouraged us. The only thing that they've encouraged us is just to be happy. And I met my biological father in 2015, and he's in Guyana. I went and met him for the first time in Guyana, and whoa, they are completely different. They are in the 50s. So when I was talking about my girlfriend, I'm like, yeah, here's my girlfriend. They're like, don't say that about your wife. Like, excuse me, what are you talking? They really care about, like, when you go to Guyana, they really care about family values, and they care about Christmas, family values, and things of that nature. So it was kind of different. My biological father's point of view about forming a union was more sacred, whereas when you live here in Canada, especially, it's I think our parents are now encouraging us millennials and what is it? Gen Zennials, or forget what you call the art term. But I think people are saying now, just be happy, because I think we've all watched our parents divorce. Some people have been married and then a person dies, and then to find out that your will was with your mistress, like these little I've heard stories about this.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
No, never been.
Kinte, are you?
Yeah, I've been
married,
engaged and then I got disengaged. So,
have you ever been close? Okay, let's put it nicely. Do you see yourself? When we look at this question, what is your thoughts on marriage as you roll into a new year?
Certainly do.
Is it whether you're involved with someone or not? Do you see yourself getting married in the future?
That was because I always felt like marriage was like that thing you did.
Why is that?
Right before you checked
Why did you run from it?
Like once the party stopped and all the good times in, it's like I might as well go ahead and get married. Jump the broom. So it was always like a can you kept kicking down the street, for a later time. So and I think a lot of good relationships ended because my unwillingness to commit, so now I'll tell you, my father passed away in 2013, and it was when my dad was sick for a while. It was when my dad was really ill when I started looking at it differently. Like I started thinking like, man, maybe I shouldn't have been BSing all this time. Like, maybe I should have, did all of that. And so I started, that's when I really started looking at it differently because, my father passed away. And that's one thing I really regret, that I didn't start a family and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, when I do that, right, he won't be around for that. So that's one of my big regrets, but then again, I think things do happen for a reason, right? So obviously I wasn't ready. So, and can I give a quick shout out to Dante? I see him in the chat.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I saw. I
I'm going to
messaged him
jump
in the
out
chat
just
room.
to
Dante,
see if
if you want to
anybody's
come in,
bold
just
enough to jump
please
in.
message me, and
So I'll be
no
out.
problem.
If nobody jumps in, I might be back. Okay.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, and always
All
great
right.
to
Thanks
see you,
again.
Ryan.
Thanks for all your
Yeah, it's
support.
nice to see you
Appreciate
too,
it. And I
Paul.
will
All right,
respond
take
to
care.
your email, by the way.
Talk to you later.
Take care, Paul. Be well. And
Is that
Dante is saying, I'm
Leroy?
watching LOL. Oh,
Can you
I
hear
think
me?
we have a Leroy.
I know, sir. I know. Good evening,
Yes, we
everybody. Good
can.
evening.
Welcome, my brother. What is up? Good evening.
Okay.
I know you look like you're using Wi-Fi because you're sort of frozen periodically, but we can hear you clear. So that is good. And before we let you start, I'm just going to have another comment here from Tony saying, my mother was a single mother and I had to raise my brother and I along with aunt's help and friends of the family. All of them taught me that marriage is sacred, and should be taken seriously. Other people in my life pretty much have said the same.
Well, this is actually
well.
a great topic, and
The
it's
floor is
something
yours,
that
Mr. Leroy. Come and
I've
join
been
us.
noticing as well. So this is kind of really timely, and it's just kind of to me, it's an understand. I think, like I mentioned, or I put in the chat there when I was on Periscope, that there seems to be a negative mindset about marriage. And I think it's from both men and from women, and I think it stems from the number of bad relationships that folks have been involved in, and so they've.
Okay, Leroy, I just want to interrupt you for a second. I want to really drill down on that. Why do you feel, either rightly or wrongly, that many men have a negative
I think it comes from a couple of things. I think it comes from like the one brother is how do you say his name? Is it Kinte? Is that how you say your name?
Kinte.
Kinte. That was a good quote, Bob, by the way. I do think it
stems from our grandparents and our parents, us losing that family orientation that we had growing up as kids. Now I'm about to be 50 in a couple of weeks, so I see it, and even though my parents would have been divorced since I was 10, I've always had, my father in my life as a part of my life and everything like that. But it still never kept me from thinking, having getting married is this bad thing that people, shouldn't get to, because I saw that their relationship didn't work out. But I think that a lot of men don't even see, like you all mentioned, there isn't that male figure in their life to even say, that I need to have that strong family structure. I want to be married, have someone to be able to share my life with, someone to be able to grow with. Because that's what, to me, that's what marriage is. It's about growing with someone. It's about leaving a legacy. It's about having, going through life with someone, because we're going to have struggles and we're going to go through different things. But at the same time, when you have someone to go through those things with, it makes it a lot, it does make it easier to me. It makes it somewhat comforting that you have someone that you can lean on. Just like when your partner, your spouse will be going through something, they have you to be able to lean on.
Okay, well, and this is good now. You Foresight on Periscope made a very interesting comment. I want all of you to react to this. He's saying that most people, and in this conversation, we're going to talk about men. Most men don't make the transition from being single to being married.
Well,
Ryan, you're nodding your head.
I just
Go
think
for
in
it
general,
first. I'm going to hit
people
you.
don't know how to make commitments, because when you make a commitment with some, because everything that the brother Leroy had mentioned, everything it has nothing to do with marriage. It has everything to do with your commitment, your life commitment with that person. You have a piece of paper that ties you together, but you still have to be you still have obligations. And I think that in this world, things have changed. Women don't need men even to be the ruler of the house anymore. The income disparities have changed, things of that nature. Women are working, and there's not the same responsibilities that are required. And we're in 2018, going on to 2019, where technology has made things different. So we can prolong settling down with somebody. We don't have to commit to anybody, and we can still maintain our identity and find the one person that is best for us, as opposed to, settling down too quickly.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop it right there. And okay, I'll let Kinte you go first, because you said something about find the one person. Here's the question before Kinte jumps in: how many guys who aren't married want to even find that one person?
Yeah, man.
Kinte, go ahead, because I think I just blew Ryan out on that one.
Somebody mentioned earlier about the swipe right thing and all of that. And this is this notion of the grass is greener on the other side, right? So it's like, yeah, you're in a good relationship. You're happy. The person's a cool person, but then there's that pesky thought that, you know what, if I just wait out, or maybe, I'm gonna find something better, that, and I think that kind of freezes a lot of people. And this idea of they don't want to settle, and I don't know. I think so. You have to, I guess, define what is settling to you, right? Like, I mean, settling. Okay, I can understand settling if you're in an abusive situation, or if you are, you don't want to settle for that, right? But, if somebody, I think sometimes when they think of the whole settling thing, it's kind of like, I think they got it kind of twisted, you know what I'm saying? The way that the mentality is. And sometimes the grass is not always greener on the other side.
True. Just to shout out your second, Anthony. What up, Curtis Brooks? Thank you so much. And so Steph, thank you for stopping by. Anthony's saying here, I don't think it's men who are the only ones who do that. I've seen many women who can't make the transition of being single, single woman to a married woman, just as much as men doing the same thing. Point taken.
All right, Doc.
But we're focusing on the men tonight. I know Leroy,
do think that some men have difficulty, and here's the thing. Here's one of the things, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this tonight either. The disparity in I should say not disparity, but the ratio of women to men is at least almost double. I'll give you an example. When I was in college, and I believe these numbers are probably still around the same, if not, maybe a little. The women on our campus was like 20 to 1 women, 20 women to 1 guy.
I like that.
So as you can imagine, women outnumber men on Earth, period. There are more women on Earth than men, which means that there's always going to be more women than men. And a lot of men have been miseducated to think that they don't have to commit because, hey, I have my choice. Like Kinte would say, hey, why should I commit when I may be able to find something better? When I can actually, wait to kind of choose from my options that I might have, because I know that, that women have to, they're either going to settle, which some of them do. They're going to settle for sharing a man, as opposed to saying, you know what? No, I'm not dealing with that. I want to be committed, and I'm going to find someone who wants to be committed as well, because there are men who do want to be committed, want to be in relationships, want to be married. And it's a yes, it is a daunting task sometimes to be able to find that one person, like you were saying, Doc. It is, but you have to be willing to say, you know what, it's worth finding that person, and until I find that person, I'm okay with if it's just me for right now, you know. And if we do the things that we're supposed to do when it comes to getting to know someone, when it comes to understanding what you want in a relationship, you won't waste your time. You won't waste your time. You won't waste someone else's time, because it's like, hey, I already know what I want, and it's a matter of, do you fit into what I want, and do I fit into what you want? If we do, cool, let's move forward. If I don't, let's not waste each other's time. On to the next. Let's go. Keep it moving.
All right, let me just jump in for a second here. Hold on here now. Got some interesting comments going on the side here. Rico says the racial thing is especially applicable when it comes to black men and black women. Ryan, of course, puts in his humor buyer's market. He has to get some money stuff going on in here. So Steph says, where are all those men? Kinte says LA. I also said they're coming in Toronto, but I don't think that So Steph wants to come up here in the snow. Tony's saying here they're all in the south. But Curtis makes an interesting point, saying it's not always the same when you get there. So, and also I'm coming back here to Periscope. You for Sight says, yes, women do feel like they don't need men anymore. I always feel like I am two double A batteries out of a job. And he's saying, I remember when you actually had to go out to dinner or to a movie to meet the parents and then maybe call that courting.
It is.
And he said when he was in school, it was 20-1.
We did
women
a show
to men
on courting as well, and that's a lost art. Yeah, that's lost. It's funny too. Like, there's a lot of people
that's
who
just
are
lost.
quite
Forget
old
the
who
art.
said
That's
they've
lost.
never been on a date. I'm talking about women. I'm like, what? I mean, I'm thinking that's like just, everybody dates, right? So
Netflix and chill.
I'm like,
no.
Yeah, they're calling it hanging out. Like, I guess I've been doing it wrong. Maybe I should have been hanging out all these years.
There you go. So, and I guess on the other side, you probably know some guys out there saying, how are they married and why are they married?
I mean, I'm just going to say, well, I guess my story is a little different because I have the benefit of being around men who have been married 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, 35 years. So, and I'm purposeful in surrounding myself with men who have that mindset, who love their wives, who have no qualms about saying how much they love their wives, doing the courting thing, having the date night with their wives. These are men who intentionally do what we're talking about, which is loving the woman that they're with, and are committed to them. So when you surround yourself with it, it's nothing new to see it. Now, I see the other side as well because, we all have social media. So we know that there are plenty of women and men out there who have that, who see the other, who just see the other side of it.
Okay. I just want to jump in here. So Steph says, are these men happily married to the women they are sexually compatible with? Very good question. Tony says, hanging out is what I did as a teenager. Dating is what adults
a lot of guys I've known
who
guys
actually want a serious relationship.
Figure like the wife and the person they procreate with is one thing, and then the person that they have great sex with is another one. Almost like they don't want it to be the same person. It's like, no. My favorite one thing they always say is, that's the mouth that kisses my kids at night. Well, that's the argument. Yeah.
Oh, going there. Actually, many years ago, Ryan, you still with us after that? Ryan, many years ago, I read a book about marriage and relationships, and it said that in relationships, a lot of people want security and excitement, and you can't have both. It's very hard to have both. And I think for men, and a lot of people think,
Absolutely.
oh, women want that, but I think a lot of guys want security and
You want
excitement.
to be able to close your eyes and picture them as the mother of
And, you know, and if
your
you and it's
kids
very hard to
as your
have
wife.
both.
I think a man of substance. I'll say that because there's some guy.
Well,
Yeah, I'll say this, that from a biological perspective, I read this article
Brian, you wanted to jump
about the hormones of love. And there is 3 different types of hormones for different emotions or different, types of people. So people like lust has its own hormones, attraction has its own hormones, and attachment has its own hormones. So you go through the stages of lust, attraction, and then you go to attachment. So I can understand why some people just want to have those things separate, or some people are leaning towards wanting to have that committed relationship. It just, maybe that's their body's chemistry. Maybe that's just the way that they're wired. But I think that and even the reason why some people cheat, or some people are want to be in multiple relationships, I think that there's certain hormones that are excreted with different people in different situations with different circumstances.
Okay, I'm going to jump on something that So Steph just said. She said she wants emotional security. Let me tell you something.
But
most guys do not have emotional security. Most people don't have emotional security. I think that's one of the challenges for a lot of guys, saying, you know what? I have enough just trying to pull my own weight that to help someone else. And I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but I think a lot of guys either realize or don't realize that when you get married, it's you and the other person, not just them going to be good. You adopt the other challenges that other person has. And, and I think another thing that may harm a lot of guys from getting married, and I tell a lot of guys this,
absolutely.
when you get married, you just don't marry the lady, you marry the family.
Do you think that some,
and I'm just being real. I'm
people,
just being real with that.
Since we're talking about men, some men are just not really built for monogamy and being in a marriage, but maybe their profession, there's some professions where,
very good question.
Like corporate, they want you, they want to have that married thing going, and that, that nuclear family, because it's good, it's a good look. And maybe, they really ain't built for that monogamy life, or that, and maybe they don't even realize it in themselves.
It's a very good question. I think it's a very good question, because the more I hear, more people are saying that
I disagree with that.
To be one-on-one.
Wait, disagree with what? Okay.
Well, I'm just putting out there what some people I hear more people saying. I think it goes back to one of the things that was said earlier. The whole word, and I think one of the key words in this conversation is commitment. So if a man hasn't seen commitment in his life, whether it's himself or in his environment, it can be challenging for him.
And I mean, it also goes back to what you were talking a little bit about too, Dr. Vibe, about the emotional security. Where if that's not if you haven't grown, a lot of men, I believe, and this is just my opinion, that men do want emotional security, but and I think we want it because we want to be able to be vulnerable with the person that we are committed to. But in a lot of cases, growing up as men or young boys, you're taught men don't cry. You don't show your emotions. You're weak if you show, any kind of emotion. So that gets suppressed, and you don't feel emotionally secure because, let's say, you do allow yourself to be vulnerable with this woman that you might be either dating or involved with, or even married, and let's say you have an argument and she throws that in your face. She wants to throw those certain situations, those certain circumstances where you allow yourself to be vulnerable in your face to make you seem as if, oh, you're not a man, you're weak, you're this, you're that, you're the other. So it does become, it becomes a challenge as men to, just to want to.
Okay, he froze on us. So I'm just going to jump to some comments here in regards to So Steph said, the way a man's ego is usually conditioned, it makes it hard for them to be monogamous. But you have free will. What do you gentlemen think about that?
I don't think it's ego. I think there's a lot of horror stories too out there.
Oh,
right?
Can y'all hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Was everybody frozen?
Froze there for a second. Yeah, there's a lot of horror stories.
Uh-oh.
I watched these horror stories myself.
Go ahead,
can you hear me, Dr. Vibe?
We can hear you.
I don't think you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Leroy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump off Leroy, and if someone wants to come into the room, there is a seat open. I just want, before we get back to you, Ryan, Curtis is saying, I wouldn't. They have all the different hormones, but feeling we attach to lust, attachment, and overall relationships. It's how, hold on a second. Okay.
I think everybody
It's how we compartmentalize these feelings. Rico is saying, Kinte, do you think it's about personal sovereignty? Okay, I'm going to kick him out again. Okay, do you think it's about personal sovereignty? The unwillingness to lose one's freedom. The more we move into a culture of subjectivity where nothing is true except and what we are influenced to believe, that everything is traditional and antiquated, especially if it prevents us from feeding into our personal passions and appetites. I hope you understood that. Sorry, the sentence is a little broken. Rico, if you can sort of rewrite that a little clearer. I'm a little bit not 100% on that. Well, so Steph
I was just
understands.
I was kind of getting into that, is that I believe
so Ryan,
that,
can you
and maybe I'm
respond
wrong
to that then?
but we've watched a lot of horror stories with relationships where people have lost. I had an employee a long time ago, and he was a radio announcer, lose everything. And he was ending up working for me, he didn't have a salary. He was just a commissioned salesman. And he just, and he was like, we were in the car and this guy's nearly in tears because he's nearly homeless, working for a large retailer, as opposed to doing his radio announcing gig where he got paid a lot of money. So I think that a lot of men don't feel that they could have that sovereignty, to be in a relationship with someone, because you pretty much give up a lot of your rights. Because when you get divorced, it's usually the judge siding with the woman, and sometimes you don't even need to have facts. You don't need to have any evidence. If she said, hey, he hit me, you don't need to prove that in court. It's just whatever the hearsay. If she's crying in court, then everyone has a perception of you. And I think even that's from a legal perspective, but then from a personal perspective, you have people in your community that are looking at you as if though that you're dog meat. So I think that some people just don't want to give up their personal life, and they don't want to tear down all of the things that they've built up throughout all these years.
Well, Rico is with us, the man with the deep questions. He's actually and the blue and the Yeti microphone. Welcome, my man. Yes, we. Oh, I know who
Rico
this
number
is. I'm going. What is up, my brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Nah, sorry for the broken sentence. I was multitasking.
How you doing?
Yeah, no, I like the conversation. I was asking
okay.
Kinte,
It's so good to see you again, and there's some people here that are happy to see you, my man.
Like, I feel like culture influences laws, right? Like, the more we kind of begin to ingratiate ourselves into things that we traditionally wouldn't necessarily think is something that we would be accustomed to, it becomes habitual. You know what I mean? Right. Therefore, everything after that becomes traditional or antiquated. This right. Sound a little extreme, but I feel like we kind of got to be careful with the whole antiquated concept, because I think we use it a little too loosely. Because we use it as a way to substantiate or to make it comfortable for us to kind of say, that's traditional thought. I don't necessarily think that's something we should be doing right now. When, let's just say, is drinking water when you're thirsty an antiquated concept? It may seem extreme, but is it an antiquated concept to think that just because it's something that we do or we're accustomed to doing, does that mean that just because now society has influenced us to see things differently, that's the way we should be going? I think if you think about TV, when you watch the Flintstones, you watch I'm telling my age a little bit, you watch the, different TV shows and I Love Lucy and all these different things, they actually slept in separate beds. And then all of a sudden they went from sleeping in separate beds to they were always sleeping together. We always kind of saw how this family concept kind of evolved, but it was always a level of respect, continuity, commitment, and things that always stayed true within that family concept. Well, now years later, we go into a place of, well, we don't necessarily have to be married. Now, first of all, I would say this: I don't think everybody should be married. I think there's a misconception to believe that just because I'm committed doesn't mean that I'm not responsible for somebody's, I don't want to say feelings, but for their heart. And I think that's a little different, because I can't really be responsible for how you feel about something. But if I'm being committed in a relationship, I have to make sure that I'm very conscious that person is putting their heart or their trust in my hand. And I think that's very important. So a lot of times we'll say things like, well, it's a piece of paper. It's not a piece of paper. If you're only looking at it from the paper standpoint, then you're forgetting the whole concept of marriage. And I think that's what society is kind of teaching us to say, hey, it's about the paper. I'm really committed. No, the paper is for like the stuff to say, okay, well, we buy a house together, we do our joint taxes together. That's the legal, contractual type of stuff that we get into. But to say all of that, I'll close on this. I feel like it's really us just saying that I don't want to lose my sovereignty. I don't want to lose my liberty. I don't want to lose my freedom. And if I can force myself to believe because society's moving in that direction that nothing's true, everything's personal, right? We're kind of moving away from an objective standard of truth. Once we do that, then everything becomes subjective, everything becomes antiquated, everything becomes traditional, and now I can rationalize the fact that, well, me doing this is actually the only thing what makes it untrue what makes it traditional is me being able to say that it's traditional because it doesn't allow me to do the things I really want to do or live the life I really want to live. That's basically what I'm saying. So I know I can go around in circle, but I feel like it's really about losing sovereignty, losing freedom. And it goes back to the first thing I said. If you only focused on what you're losing, then you're forgetting what you're gaining. And I think that's the thing about marriage. The marriage is not about I'm losing something. What did I find that's so precious, that's so valuable, means so much to me? I want to cherish this for the rest of my life. And if you don't see that, then you just shouldn't get married. If you found that, then you just shouldn't get married. But we've been trained to think, all the things I'm not going to be able to do anymore. Well, that's like having a child. If I have a child and I'm only focused on, I can't go to the club, I can't go dancing, then why have a child? There's nothing. Name me something more precious than having a child. I have 3 daughters and a son. There's nothing more important to me than them. I'm not worried about what I can't do anymore. I'm not worried about those things I'm losing. You know what I'm saying? But we have a tendency to do that with marriage. So I think we got to really evaluate our thinking and why do we feel as though we're losing so much, you know, instead of looking at what we're gaining.
Right. There's this whole notion that I keep hearing over and over is like marriage is for suckers. You know, like dudes who's getting married. Those are just the women and found a provider, and you know that's what's going out there is that that he's not really doing it because he wants to do it. He's doing it because some women done trapped him, you know, in a situation and whatnot. And I think there's not enough of, like, you're married, right, Rico, mm-hmm. and so vibe. I mean, maybe there's not enough of us out there who are saying, you know, the benefits of it and whatnot, because it seems like that other voice is loud, you know, of, you know, oh man, this bunch of you a sucker if you get married, you know, why I keep forgetting the cow and the milk thing, but you know what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna say one more thing before I step out. I was reading something from Kurt. He put it's so important for men to be well-rounded emotionally. I think that's so important. And the reason why I think that's so important, I remember Dr. Vibe and I had a conversation.
Yes.
And we were talking about manhood. And I think this is very important because we don't want. I'm pretty sure Steph and other young ladies listening to this don't want to be married. Don't want to marry a boy. They want to marry somebody that you know they want to marry a grown man. They want to marry somebody that has a sense of integrity, you know, accountability, responsibility, character. They want those things. I'm assuming those things matter, right? Well, I think the problem is that I'm just be honest. I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He just had a little girl, and I said, "Go shoot yourself," because these little boys I see right now and the way they're being raised, just shoot yourself, bro. Just shoot yourself, man. And I was joking with him. Well, of course, we're laughing. But the reason why I bring that up and the reason why Kurt's comment makes so much sense is that Dr. Vibe and I had this conversation a while ago. We were saying the difference between boys and men is that a boy still feels the need to be served. My mom serves me. My dad serves me. My girl serves me. Everybody's supposed to be taking care of me. Everybody's supposed to make sure I get it the way I want it. I get it like I get it. When you become a man, you realize now it's my obligation and my responsibility to serve my wife, my children, my family, my community. When you men haven't graduated to that. It's boys haven't graduated to that. I'm being honest with you. You listen to the music, you look at where we are in society, we still have this concept of entitlement of I got to get it the way I want to get it. Well, then and then this is the problem with that. Unfortunately, not all women. I know Steph is completely not one of these women. I'm not. And first of all, women are not monolithic. I don't want to. What I'm saying is, so it's sad to see how they reward masculinity over manhood. They reward all the superficial qualities of a man instead of the substantial qualities of a man. The things that they identify, money, cars, all these different things that a man is only getting to get you. And not to not to keep you, just to get you. And there's a difference. And but unfortunately, women are rewarding that. And if you keep rewarding masculinity and not rewarding manhood, then you're gonna get what you pay for.
That's right. And can I just add that it's also important.
I know.
Yeah, drop the mic. It's always nice to hear from Rico. I was going to say that, like, in 2019 and 2018, we also have to realize that we're not going to get some people are lucky to find their mates on Tinder and Bumble and Plenty of Fish, but you really have to get out of that because 5 years ago I was on those apps and I only found really bad relationships because people's minds are only on one thing. You know, you have to go outside of those apps and actually go out and participate in the community and be around people where you can actually meet and build trust, because then you have a different conversation. But if you're trying to take, trying to take someone from these apps and make them into your life partner, it's really hard, because you jump into the relationship, you're not really vetting them out, you don't really know their friends. I think that real relationships before those apps came in, we actually got to bring them out to our friends. Our friends vetted them out, found mutual friends. We got to meet their family. We kind of got a better perspective of who these people are and how they're going to enter into our lives, as opposed to, the way that things are now. You're learning about your partner 1 year out of the relationship. It's like, oh, you did this? I didn't know. Well, you only know what you see on social media, and that's it. So we have to be a little bit more careful on how we choose our mates to begin with, because you can't really talk about manhood and legacy when you don't even know yourself and you don't know the person that you're with.
I just want to add on here a few things. Welcome, Leah, the life coach. Also, Ken Dixon, life trainer, saying, I've been with my wife for 35 years and married 18. So Seth saying, yeah, but most of these men don't approach women unless they consider her borderline attractive, i.e. attainable. Another thing, one of the gentlemen I look to for mentorship, and I've had him on many times in the past, a gentleman named Glenn Barker from the Mankind Project in Chicago, said, he always says that boys make excuses, men take responsibility.
I think I'm an exception to the rule. I've always been that guy in the classroom where a girl might say something really smart, and I'm like, oh, who said that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've always kind of been that sapiosexual person who, don't get me wrong, we all have superficial urges. There's always something first attract us to a person, before we begin to learn about that person. So, I think we all fall into that. But I think too, that's what a lot of us advertise too, right? I think, we've been kind of taught to kind of advertise or accentuate men and women, those things that we know that attract the person that we want to attract the most. Maybe we do that, and I think we have to make sure we're very careful with that as well. We got to make sure that, we are walking billboards. And a lot of times, we know that, and when we advertise, a certain aspect of us to accentuate a certain thing or a certain aspect of quality that we know would attract a certain person that we wish to attract.
Well, I think, I guess into when we're talking about this conversation, we've winded it out a bit to what sort of male influence have you had in your life? Like my dad tells me that he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his wife. And it's a very simple statement, but it's a very strong statement. And when that's coming from my major male influence, that resonates from my head to my toes. But not everyone is.
I'm gonna say this.
Not every guy is blessed to have that.
But I'm gonna add this.
I don't take it.
I was pretty much raised by my grandfather, who I thought was probably the greatest man I ever met in my entire life. And I mean that with everything inside of me. But I think what motivates me the most is I have 3 daughters, and it's important that I set that bar. It's important that that I don't think men realize that if they have daughters, that their daughter's going to end up with a guy that's either like them from an extreme standpoint or nothing like them, depending on that relationship. And for me, it was always important for me to set that bar. For me, it was always important to open the door for my daughters ever since they were walking, to court them, to talk to them. My grandfather used to always say, court your daughters. What he's saying is show them how a man is supposed to treat them. And my oldest daughter is now married. She's 27. She just turned 27. When she was in kindergarten, she came to me one day. She said, Dad, this little boy likes me. And I'm like, okay. First I'm like, why a little boy liking you? We need to do something about this, right? So she said, no, Dad. I know, Dad, don't worry. I don't like him. And so I'm like, okay, well, why don't you like him? Because he won't open the door for me. And,
Wow.
and when she got married, this is a true story. When my daughter got, right before she got married, and her boyfriend at the time were getting really, really, really close. I call her my queen of hearts. I have 3 daughters. I call one my queen of hearts, my queen of diamonds, and my queen of spades. Right. My oldest I call my queen of hearts. And so I had bought her this heart necklace, right? And I noticed it was a different heart. She always wore a heart necklace for years, never took it off. When she started dating this guy, she got this new heart necklace on. And I'm like, okay. And I noticed it, but I didn't say anything. I'm like, but I knew it was serious. And I just kind of was a little distance. And one day my daughter pulled me to the side. She said, Dad, I can tell you've been really uncomfortable, with this relationship. But she said, don't worry. He's just like you. And I think that's very, and I'm just saying that because I think that we don't necessarily have to have someone, and it's good. I had that. I had my grandfather. But I think sometimes we have to recognize, and that's where I said the difference between being a boy and a man. We have to recognize our responsibility that we have in front of us. There are some things that are just true. Let's just be real. There are some things that are just true, whether we believe it or not. And if I don't, and if I don't have the sense and awareness to be able to look at my daughters and don't realize the impact, how I treat them, how I walk this, how I go around this life. And I will close on this. I had a friend of mine who was in an abusive relationship. Close friend of mine. Husband just doing some of the most, I don't want to get into it. Me and some of my friends were talking to her, and this is what she said. She's like, yeah, but he's such a good man. And my dad used to do the same thing, but he was a good man too. And so she ended up accepting what her husband was doing to her because she identified her dad as a good man, but her dad did the same thing. And I think we have to make sure we realize and take responsibility and accountability for our actions, because there are some things that are true. And I think it's very important that we realize that there's just some things in front of us that can become that North Star for us, that we don't have to sit here and make excuses for us not being the man or carrying the responsibilities that we know we should be carrying. Hey, Kinte,
amazing,
Ryan,
fantastic. Also, just want to say,
all right, man.
Yeah, come on back anytime, okay, my man? Be well. And hey, for those who do not know, well, I know him as Rico too, but Askia, he always drops knowledge bombs, man, and he just like he's got it. It's so good because when I saw Rico, go, I know who that is. The Rico thing is another story, but that started with myself and another gentleman, Ricardo McCrae, us 3. It was a whole other conversation a while back. Want to also just jump on here that you for sight. Also welcome Dr. Tachi is in the house. Actually, Dr. Tachi is going to be on with me tomorrow night with Leah Miller at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be on Get Vocal. And the subject is, with all the women of color that were not elected in the last U.S. midterms, will they be able to make a difference? Or what kind of difference will more women of color in politics, holding political seats, political power, make in the American government system or American society? So check that out tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Let me just see here. If any of you guys want to chat for a minute, I'm just looking through some comments on the Periscope side. I think it's this guy saying free name change. There's an age that's too saying, but you have to learn how to be a man. Not that nowadays most women don't expect men to be men.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or they have a distorted view of men.
If anyone wants to jump in, there is. Okay, if anyone wants to jump in, there's another open seat. We're probably going to go for another 10 minutes maximum, because I know after an hour and a half, it just goes, it can go crazy. But if anyone wants to jump in, and also too, if anyone wants any other, no, you're good, Ryan. It's all good. It's all good. if anyone wants any conversation topics hosted by me, I'll put my email address in the chat. I am more than happy to host some more of these conversations. I think for anyone that's watching, would you like a part 2 of this conversation? So if so, what we can do is we can do it at the same time next week. We can do it at this Tuesday. Actually, I can't do it next Tuesday. I'd have to do it maybe next Monday. Well, Tachi's saying, Dr. Vibe, we missed you on a platform like this. Well, I am here. It is about time that we got back to these type of epic conversations. And that's why I have people like Dr. Tachi coming back on. And actually, a week from tomorrow night, she's going to be leading the conversation about the lack of diversity in education. So she's gonna be rocking, and there's no better person that I could have on this platform or any platform talking about. Leroy is back. Oh, hey, Leroy, and Kinte saying Dr. Tachi, aka my dance teacher. Mr. Leroy, we got a few minutes left. You want to, and I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's jumping in. There's Bobby has just jumped in also. I'd like to say, everyone, thank you for taking the time from your positive, productive schedules.
No, I think this is a great conversation, and these are the kind of conversations that need to be had, especially us as men, so that you have men like Rico, you have men like Kinte, you have men like Ryan, that you vibe that come and talk about what manhood is. I loved what Rico said. I mean, it was a drop mic, masculinity versus manhood. That was powerful right there. And understanding that.
Well, you know what? Just
absolutely, there's got to be that masculinity versus manhood. That absolutely, that conversation needs to be had, because there is a difference, and folks don't, especially men. And there's two things. I think one, that they may not understand it, but then also they may not have been taught it, and there's a difference.
That's what I was. Yeah. You know, I mean, I was fortunate. I know a lot of us have been fortunate that we had positive male influences in our lives. I mean, I didn't just have my father. I had his brother, my uncles. I had my mother's brothers. I had so many positive black male influences in my life. I was so blessed in that regard. And a lot of my friends, they don't have that. Not at all. They really had positive male influences. So my question, I guess, to the panel would be is, to be a husband, or to be a man, just period. What, I mean, you don't learn it on your own, right? It's something that some people, I guess, maybe, but these are qualities that I hear TV is like really loud. Yeah, kind of throw. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's someone's a TV or something on that.
Like it, especially in our community, black community, there was like a thing in place to basically train you to be a husband, train you to be a wife. That's really gone in a lot of instances. I'm just wondering, like, how do we get back to that? And then also being, we're good guys and stuff. How do we reach out to, maybe we'll see a young brother that maybe needs to be pulled to the side, and helped out too.
Well, this is okay. I think Leah, the life coach, is saying yes, definitely, Dr. Vibe. Is that meaning you want a part 2 of this one? I'm actually thinking. I think I'm going to part 2 of this, because I think next week, I want to have this men versus masculinity.
Men versus right. What Rico said? Manhood versus masculinity.
Manhood versus masculinity. I think we're gonna touch that one next week, because I think that is huge. And Rico better be around for it, because he's the person that brought it to the.
He's like a prophet, that guy.
He better be around for that one. I'm gonna make sure, but I think that is going to be huge. Anyone else have any comments here? Manhood, thank you, Leah. Thank you for doing that for me. See, that's the way I roll when I hear something that's really topical. I just grab and say, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. But we will definitely come back to this conversation piece about should men get married in 2019. And there's another conversation piece that I have. Could I tell everybody? Someone will probably take it. Well, if you take it, you take it, right? I would say to this one, if you close your eyes and think about your father, what vision do you get?
Ooh.
So I'm gonna sketch that one right after that.
That's a deep one right there.
After that,
that's a deep one.
Now we're talking about biological father, right? Or
I got 3.
Yeah, that's you know what? Either okay. Okay, Tachi saying that. Bobby's going, oh blank, run. Well, that's a good question. I would say I would say father or who you consider your father.
No, I'm good.
And Kinte, since you're getting tired, I'm going to start shutting it down. Even though it's only 7:30 on the West Coast, he's tired.
I got up early.
That's all right, no problem. Well, I think that we've got more than enough conversation topics for the next one. I think we've gone for an hour and a half. I think that is more than enough. But Foresight brings up a very interesting point, though. He's saying, and we'll leave with this final thought. When it comes to this subject, do men of color think differently than men who are not of color?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
It's everything to do with culture.
Culture, yeah. I think it's culture.
Everything to do with culture.
Yeah, and I think it's the culture kind of dictates the experience. Sometimes dictates the experiences that we've had. You know, so I really do think the thinking is totally different. You know.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd just like to welcome Cliff. He's on the tail end of the conversation, but we're going to start shutting it down. I'll guess some last comment here from Foresight saying, I think you have to separate black men from white ones. The situations that black men go through are uniquely different. And remember, black men are not in homes. They're in the streets.
That's a generalization.
A lot of them are in the streets. They're not in homes. So there's a lot. Yeah, he said some. I'll say some. He is making this one. You know what? Some of his comments, that'd be another hour and a half. So I'm going to stop it right there because I just look at, he's got a lot to say, and that would keep us on forever and ever. Gentlemen, first I'd like to thank each one of you and also Paul, who stepped in earlier in regards to the conversation. I think it's been given. Okay, I'm not going to read any more comments because it will be on forever. So I'm going to ask everyone who's live right now, what do you want the next conversation to be? This one, should men get married in 2019, part 2, or manhood versus masculinity? So can you write? Okay.
I would say,
Ryan say manhood versus masculinity.
Would be,
Kinte?
Yeah, I'm manhood versus masculinity.
Leroy? Okay, Cliff is saying MVM, manhood versus masculinity. You Foresight is saying manhood versus masculinity, much needed. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so I guess those are the votes. Yeah, Leah, the life coach, great. Yeah, and I'm gonna put my email address here. Yeah, Curtis is saying the same. So obviously that's the flow. If there are any other conversation topics you would like me to host, my email address is there. I'd like to thank Paul. I'd like to thank all the gentlemen that are on here. I'd like to thank Kinte for bringing up this topic and allowing me to run with it. Really appreciate that. And thank everyone who's been on here. Curtis, Ken Dixon, life trainer. So Steph, we're gonna get you. Who can't find the right? Well, forget that's another thing. Anthony, Dr. Tachi, Bobby, Cliff, Leah, the life coach, and Durham Skywriter. I'd like to say thank you so much. This has been another epic conversation for Dr. Vibe. If you want to catch more of my stuff, audio-wise, go to the website, the DRVIBESHOW. All the video replays are on my YouTube site. Go to the_DRVIBESHOW. Put it in the search engine. You'll catch many epic conversations. Thank you also, Curtis. Cliff is saying blessings and happy December. Well, it's going to be a happy December, a happier one, because Dr. Vibe's got a pile of conversations coming to this platform. So just a reminder, tomorrow night, Dr. Tachi and Leah Miller talking about the impact that the women of color who were elected in the last U.S. midterm will have on the social political scene in America. I may be hosting a late night conversation on Thursday night, and the topic is the elimination of dark pigmentation. So that is going to be, and that's what these are suggestions. I'm just hosting that. It's either going to be with 10 or yes.
I don't.
No, well, it's gonna go. Well, no worries, Ken. Even though you don't have pigmentation, you need to come on because it's about the human race. So you need to be there, right? So that's going to be either 10 or 10:30 Thursday evening Eastern time. Just check the dashboard on Get Vocal. And next week, Dr. Tachi and Leah Miller are back, and other things in between. As always, I like to say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, a solution for someone's problem. A few last things I like to say when I sign out these days. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim wider, aim better. Thank you very much, everybody, for having a great, epic conversation. Bye-bye.
Okay.